Hello everyone, hello. I'm just waiting to skip the ads to make sure the sound is okay. Let's just wait for that to happen. I'm just watching it on my iPad. Hello everyone. That sounds good. That sounds good, so we can put that to one side. Welcome everyone, welcome to today we're going to be doing some GM prep for a new release. Yes, so sometime during September we are going to have a new publication, and that new publication is going to be called Mithras Classic Fantasy Imperative. And what that's going to be, it's going to be the rules for classic fantasy, the basic rules for you to start your campaigns with, and everything that you'll need. There is a full version of classic fantasy. This is the full version, which is a hardback book. But they have decided, can't get it back in my shelf. Luther Arkwright's in the way. There we go. But they have decided, which I think is a fantastic idea, to release it in a slimmed down version, just the basic rules. So in the full rules, you not only have all the classes and more monsters and things like that, but you've got everything that you need to play Mithras Classic Fantasy in one book. It's a PDF, and would you believe it is free? Yeah, you heard that right. It is absolutely free. Now, I've seen a copy of it. I've seen the front cover. You can see it on Facebook, etc. Fantastic. Looks absolutely amazing. And in celebration of that, we are going to, i.e. myself and the rest of the gaming group, we are going to do some actual plays using just those rules. So I'm not going to use anything from the full rule set. We're just going to use those rules. So anything that you see us doing, you can actually replicate yourself. Now, there are for Mithras Classic Fantasy, there's a whole load of modules already produced. For example, here's one of them, the Terror of Etinmarsh there. And Classic Fantasy is probably as close as you're going to get to D&D 5th edition, but better. For example, you have classes in Classic Fantasy. You don't have classes in Mithras. So you actually have Cleric, Fighter, Magic User, and Rogue in the Imperative. In the full version, you get everything. You get Rangers, Paladins, Bards, etc. You get all the demi-human races. So you get Dwarf, Half-Elf, Elven, etc., etc. You get specific spells that are very similar to AD&D 5th edition. So you get things like Magic Missile, Cone of Cold, and things like that. And the only thing that's really different is that you don't have levels. You have what's known as ranks. and ranks are the same as in guilds or orders or cults in Mithras, i.e. once you've got your class skills, 4 of them higher than 40%, say, you are then rank 1. And then you can move, once you've got 4 of them to 60%, then you're rank 2, so forth and so on. And that goes right up. And there's even a companion, Mithras Classic Fantasy companion coming out as well. So, and that sort of like goes from rank 4 further up. And if you're interested in what's coming in there, then you can check out the recent episode of Mithras Matters, the podcast that I produce, where I talk to Rodney Leary, who is the creator or the line manager and creator of Classic Fantasy, and you can listen to him and see what he's got in store. So I am GMing as usual, and the other players are really excited and started to talk about their characters, etc. And I was in a bit of a quandary. I didn't know whether or not to create my own campaign or my own adventure, or use one that is already available. And I decided to create my own because I didn't want people not to be able to watch the actual play because they were going to play that module or something like that. So I decided to create something completely fresh. Now, I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm actually going to create a new campaign area for this. Just to remind you, if, and let me see if I can get it working in the chat. You should be able to go down to this. Come on, streamer bot in it. There you go. You can go over to that, and that's where we have all our RPG. I put everything on that Ko-fi page, and that's how you can donate or give, subscribe, and give the characters and the players an extra boost while they're playing. So we're going to go straight in. Oh, this is not the one that we need. We need this one. So because I look better on that side. So what I'm going to do, this is actually the Mithras page from my end. These are all the different sections, and if you go to World Anvil, this is what the page looks like. And then, for example, these were all the orders of the sorcerers. So if I click on there, you see all the orders. So these are almost like the ranks from Classic Fantasy. You know, they're slightly different, but you can see here I've made up all the order. So I went with the coloured robes idea. So this is the Order of the Phoenix. That's Cyrus is, and you can see that they have access to various spells as they go up, etc., etc. And that's how and you certain information is hidden behind a supporter wall, as I like to call it. So, and you can see here, this is the recent one that we did the other week when we started to bring Animus into the game, and we're sort of like starting to work on that as well. But what I thought I would do is start off a new world. So after the Vampire Wars, that's going to be our campaign that is a bit like Call of Cthulhu. Metro City is Destined. Mithras, of course, is just the Mithras. That's the Odes campaign. Voltara is 42-7. That is the M space. So I'm just going to start a new world. And to start off with, I'm going to call it Classic Fantasy. Okay. And then I don't think they have Classic Fantasy in here. They don't, but they do have Mithras, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to make it public. I'm going to make it private to start off with, and then I can create the world. and we'll go straight into it here. And the first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to start off a new article that is going to be a plot. And we're going to, tonight, we're going to think about the plot line that we're doing. Notice it's private up here. I've published it just because I don't like it being a draft. Okay, and I haven't thought of a name for this yet. One will probably come to me. I'm going to start off with this expression, dig too deep. I think I might call it that, and you'll see why. So this this sort of like first bit is all about the overview of it, when I jot down all my notes that I'm thinking about the campaign. And I have to just let me have a sip. Decaf coffee, totally caffeine free at the moment, apart from the little bit that's in decaf. So this is when I sort of like plan out the adventure and start to embellish it. And actually doing this process actually helps me, because it sort of like fires off imagination, and I sort of like start to build on things. Now, the first thing that I wanted to, I just noticed there's a focus mode here, but I don't know what that does. Oh, it just sort of like gets that, but I don't want that. I'll have it like this, it's easier. So one of the things that I wanted to do is that I wanted to almost like capture, I'm just going to call this overview like that. I wanted to capture the old-fashioned Dungeons and Dragons sort of like esque ventures. And I really like the idea of going underground, and I wanted to recreate that feel, that dungeon feel. But I didn't want to sort of like say there's a dungeon out here, let's go adventure. And I didn't want that structure for it. So I thought the next best thing that it could be would be a mine.
Sorry, I didn't understand that.
And I know that I've got some Roll20 maps already for a mine. So it's going to be set in a local disused mine. Okay, and I've already thought about this before. And the other thing that I came up to, and this is exactly my thought process, I had a vision. So how I create adventures, I normally start off with an idea and then I embellish it. You know, so for example, I was playing Starfield the other day, and while I was playing Starfield, I got put on a prison planet and then a prison starship. And then I suddenly thought that would be fantastic for M-Space, an adventure on a prison starship that the characters have to get out of, or even a prison planet like in Star Trek, whatever it was, when they get taken to a Klingon prison area. And what I had in my head was this idea of a tavern. And the tavern is really busy and there's lots of people milling around, and the people are drinking and having fun. And then what happens? There's a challenge. And it's almost a case of this idea that there is a mine somewhere near to the town. And this idea that the mine is disused, it's not used any longer. And this, of course, I had to think, why would that be the case? And I've been thinking about that. But I wanted it to sort of like, almost like get to this idea that at the tavern, somebody challenges the party and sort of like says, I bet you cannot spend one night in the local mine. And that's where I got my idea from, this idea of challenging the players to spend time in the mine. And then I thought, that's going to be really boring because they'll just go through the front door and stay there, then that's it. And that's when I thought the challenge is to retrieve a... I'm going to put coin in here. You'll see why in a minute. From the treasure that lies deep in the local mine. Okay, and then I thought, well, surely somebody must have done this and has been achieved before. And then I thought it'd be really funny if they point to the wall where they're in these wooden frames, and this is when I'm going to change it and make it an ingot. Ingot or coin. I haven't decided yet. And there's in frames on the wall previous attempts, the coin there, and the name of the achiever scratched into a cheap piece of wood. Okay, so this idea that, you know, has been achieved before, and I sort of like wanted this idea that in 10 years the decade, and that's sort of like almost given me an idea that you know, some people have done it. Some people have achieved this. Some people have been into the mine and achieved and retrieved this coin or this ingot that you have to do to prove yourself. And over 100 people have tried across the decade. Many never return, but 3 did. Each came back with the ingot, coin, and were hailed as heroes. Unfortunately, none lived to tell the tale beyond a few days. And I thought this would be good to introduce some people. This idea of Dale, the son of the local shepherd, returned and was found 2 days later drowned face down in a river, in a local stream. I wanted to call Ben, but I always think that people in the olden days, in little sort of like villagers would have very simple names or names related to their craft. So Ham, short for hammer, the son of the blacksmith, returned, but was found one day later dead in his bed, his face looking as if he had been scared to death. And then finally, not the son of the local carpenter returned, but one day later, but after a night of celebration, went missing and was never found again. However, his backpack of simple belongings was found out in the field, rummaged through. Right. I also want no females have ever accepted the challenge, because the characters might play female characters, and even that's absolutely fine. So if you remember our Spelljammer campaign where we were playing Spelljammer, Mr. Pickles played the fire-based druid. I forget what her name was, but she was really good, and he played that female character really well, and so there is that possibility there. So there's this idea that people get challenged, and what I think I want is that I want there to be like a silver, a gold ingot. That's what I so like a little nugget of gold. And I don't want it to be platinum because it wouldn't be for this village. So I'm thinking this village probably does a lot of copper. I mean, it could even be a silver ingot. Let's make it a silver ingot. And the funniest thing is, although the villagers think it is silver, it is actually platinum. That I get them. That would be nice. Right, let me just spell check, make sure everything's fine. Okay, that's good. Come out of spell check. Okay, so we've got the beginnings here. But the other thing that I wanted to happen, I thought this challenge is all well and good, but if you've seen any of my adventures. I like multi-layered adventures. So I like other things that could possibly happen. And I was sort of like...
Interesting question.
I was thinking about what else could happen here. And I was reminded, and this is exactly how it came to my head, I was reminded about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, when somebody gets a golden ticket and then they get called over to one side by somebody who asked them to bring back a never-ending gobstopper and things like that. So I thought, oh, this is a perfect opportunity. So this idea of once accepted, meet with a shady person who claims to be in the village looking for brave adventurers to venture into the mine to retrieve something that their master had lost down there. They will, of course, pay additional money for the safe return of this item. So what I'm trying to build now, I'm trying to build a moral issue into the adventure. So I sort of like want it to be almost like this is the starting point. It all seems fine. It's quite a simple line from A to B. But then that line starts to split and there's going to be decisions to be made, and which way will the players go, and will they come back and give this? And at this point, I have to admit, I haven't thought about what they have to return. I haven't got that far yet. And I often think about the start of the adventure in real life, of it actually happening, and I can see it playing through my mind what's happening, and I can picture the party in the tavern, and the tavern very much alive, and this challenge going out, and then as they return to the stables where they've got board and lodgings or whatever, somebody pulls them aside and sort of like says, you know, I would like you to do me a favour. I was looking for somebody to go down and pay handsomely for it to return this item. So all of a sudden it's almost like this would never happen in real life, but we're not recreating real life. Other things are coming in. And I thought this would also be a golden opportunity for them to use like insight and persuasion and skills like that, those social skills. I also have to say that they don't have to accept this. Okay, they can come back without it if they wish, and that's absolutely fine. And I think for me, if we play classic fantasy again, what will happen is that that will then have a consequence. And what I'm constantly saying in my head, one of the things that I really believe in any campaign setting is that every action has a consequence. So every action has a reaction or a consequence. So no matter what happens, things change the future. And that's the important thing. Now, this is why a lot of the time the Spelljammer adventure I was GMing for the party felt very linear. It didn't really matter what they did. And there were parts in that adventure that says, if the people did not want to go down there and talk to this person, they will come to the party. And I'm not a great fan of that. So either it will happen or I'll communicate it. But, you know, every reaction has a reaction. So, for example, in the M space, when Newman shot somebody in a hotel, of course he was later arrested because that's illegal, and so it was building up. And then Minsk shot somebody in the head, at a party, and again that has consequences. And I'm never worried as a GM about what players do. Okay, I would never stop them doing something, but what I hope they understand is that if they do something, they never have to justify it. It's their decision, but there will be consequences for that action no matter what. And that's what I like about, I would say that's my style of GMing. So we've got this idea now. We know that we're going to get them to go down a mine. We know that it's been attempted before, and it's not. There's no money involved apart from this shady person that comes in. It's almost like bragging rights, and that's what I wanted it to be. And I'd already decided that there would be 1, 2, 3 levels of the mine. So it's not just on one level, it goes down and there's a cradle that goes down to the next area, etc. And I thought this could really sort of like open up what we could have. And I want it to be really everything from the book, the rule book. So almost like on the first sort of like area, there's this sort of like rats and bats and animals. Okay, and then that's literally it. And then as they go down the mine, other things sort of like come together, and there's other things there, and ideas of this will come from the level above. So I was thinking, I like things like goblins or orcs, something like some minor sort of like beast that has almost like learnt to live down there. And this also brought me into that I could have witch doctors, and we could have the chief. So almost like different skills, etc., but all quite living together, almost like as a big, like a goblin tribe / family. And they go up to the previous level to grab things, and they come down and they have things like rats and bats. And I also thought there might be a flooded area here where blind fish swim, leads outside eventually, things like this. So I didn't want it, you open a door and there is but the tribe is going to react negatively. And I also thought sometimes they probably go out of the mine as well, and so there might be like tracks outside, etc., and it might sort of like link them together. And then beyond this, further down, is the lowest level, and this is when I had to start thinking about what's going to be there. Why was this mine abandoned? What was it that abandoned this mine? Why is it abandoned, and why is it hated? Nobody goes down there. And this is why, and I just had to link on to the idea of the Mines of Moria. Okay, and I don't mind using classic examples like this because it's classic, and I know the players will start to use quotes from Lord of the Rings as we go down. And that's when I thought, what could be on this bottom floor? And that's when I thought of a troll or something similar to that. Something that lurks in the lower reaches. And, you know, it can go up and feed on the goblins when it needs to. And the goblins can refer to the troll as I wanted to put Bigfoot, but that's too much. We call him because somebody might be able to speak goblin. Okay, they're not going to speak common because they don't have any interaction, but some of them might be able to speak goblin. The one who cracks bones with his fangs and huge arms. I like that. Goblins call him... I want to refrain from calling him Bob. They've probably got a really simple name for him. Crusher, we'll call him. Okay then. So then I've got at this point now I've sort of like started to flesh everything out, and I often think at this point I could probably run the adventure. You know, if somebody said let's play this tomorrow, I can probably run the adventure just from this. I can create things that are happening, but I can add more detail. These are sort of the bare bones. And so we get to the point was, why is the mine abandoned? We need to know that, and what does the shady person want from the mine? We still got these two questions that we need to answer. Okay then, so the goblins and the animals I think have moved in there over time. You know, they've sort of like found the mine and gone in. It's been empty for 10 years. You know, I'm going to extend that. I'm going to say over 50 seasons. 50 generations. It's an overstatement, but I figure these people don't really understand the passion, the passing of time. If we say no one remembers why it was abandoned, only stories whispered to children to keep them in line or ensure they go to their beds when asked and sleep without wandering off. So I want to sort of like build up this mystery about it, but the actual what actually happened might not be that big. It might be something quite natural, and this is the important thing, that it doesn't have to be very fanciful or anything like that. So I do like this idea of mining too deep, too much greed, uncovered something that they were afraid of. Okay, I like that. Troll came later and found the lower levels away from the sunlight and passing visitors. Made their home there and feeds off the goblins. Okay. So the thing that actually made them abandon the mine was actually poisonous gas. Okay, and I thought about poisonous gas and I thought, hang on, we need to make it a little bit better. And so I thought about fungal spores that cause a mental disease, hallucinations, and madness. Okay, and that's essentially what it is. Discovered a chamber full of the cave fungus, which that made its way throughout the mine, hence abandoning it. This has dissipated from the normal tunnels, but there is still one chamber on the troll layer that is infected and where the fungus grows. This is also where the seam of platinum is. When the people, somebody's in the chat. Hello, I cannot speak Spanish, but thank you for being there. When the people hack at the platinum to remove an ingot for the challenge, it disturbs fungal spores and death happens soon after. Okay, that's fine. So the other thing that we're going to say as the rumors and stories of the abandoned mine have been told, fewer and fewer people accept the challenge. No one has been near the mine for the last 10 years, although some teenagers still, what do you call it, still challenge their peers to venture near it. The mine has a foreboding aura that surrounds it, and many will not even venture near. Some have even reported strange noises coming from beyond the entrance, and sound of soft whispering. Some people have accepted the challenge in the early days, but many never returned. 3 did. Cool, that's nice. I like that. That's a nice almost like start to it. Now we've got a bit of going in, and we know why it was abandoned, which so that's good. We know that. So the next thing that we have to sort of like think about is, what does this guy want? What does this shady guy want from within there? I'm wondering whether or not, I think I'm going to give the party everything that they need to know. It is rumoured that there is a rare plant that grows deep in the mine. It grows by using the minerals in the rocks and is pure white, lacking any chlorophyll. The plant is rumoured to have considerable magical powers. It is meant to slow aging so that the person who drinks an infusion of the plant will live for several years longer than the expected lifespan. It also has considerable healing properties. The plant has remained hidden and forgotten about for centuries. Hey Darth, how are you doing? It's lovely to see you. Hope you're looking good and feeling fine. We are currently doing the adventure for classic fantasy. So let me just go quickly through what we've got here. So we've got this local disused mine that's been disused for a huge amount of time. Nobody knows why it's abandoned, but these stories, they're whispered to children to keep them in line or ensure that they go to bed at time. You know, if not, you'll be sent to the mine. And the adventure starts with a tavern and everybody's drinking, and then some of them challenge the party to retrieve a single ingot from the disused mine. And there's actually 3 people who have done this before, and their silver ingots are on the wall in sort of like makeshift frames with their names etched underneath. And there's, unfortunately, they did it, but then several days later, they actually died. So Dale, the son of the local shepherd, he was found drowned in the local stream. Ham, the son of the blacksmith, returned. So yes, it's a fantasy world, but rather than using Mithras, it's using classic fantasy. So Mithras classic fantasy is very similar to D&D. So you have classes. There's things like a mage, a cleric, a ranger, a bard, and we're celebrating it because in September, sometime during this month, a free version of the rules is going to be published. And so anybody can grab the rules and play the game. So what I agree with Rodney Leary, who is the creator and the line manager for Mithras Classic, is that we're going to use that imperative rules and do an actual play. So anybody can watch our actual play and actually play the rules. You know, they can actually do it. And the nice thing about this is that it's completely and utterly free, these rules. And what's even better, it's on an open license. So somebody can take Mithras Classic Fantasy Imperative and create a dungeon for it or an adventure for it and sell it, and that's absolutely fine. There's no problem doing it. So it's after the Wizard of the Coast issues about open licensing and things like that. So there's a new open license. I think it's called Orc at the moment. I think that's what it is. And so what the design mechanism is saying is that, okay, then here's the rules. These are free. Go away and create things. But you can only create things with that rules. So, for example, there's only 4 classes in the rules, in the imperative rules. Cleric, fighter, magic user, and rogue. That's it. So you couldn't make an adventure with a ranger, say, because that would be using classic fantasy. So, but it's interesting that one of the areas that nobody can touch in the classic fantasy world is inwils Isle. because in the world there is an island called Inwils Isle, and on Inwils' Isle lives the sage Inwils. And so that is protected. There's nothing made up about it, but it's actually protected by the license that you can't touch it. But what's interesting is that I could now create something for Inwils Isles, because Rodney's sort of like said to me, if you want to do it here, then I'll release it from that reservation, and then that'll be it. So what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do, rather than doing there's several modules like this already for classic fantasy, but rather than doing that, I've made up my own. And so it's a bit like a dungeon adventure. It's an abandoned mine, and you know, things like this will ring. Why is it abandoned? They mined too deep, too much greed, and covered something that they were afraid of, and it's actually a fungus that they're afraid of. And so this person actually, once they've been challenged on the way back to the stable where they're living, camping out, there's actually a shady person that comes up and sort of like says, I would like to pay you to go down the mine and retrieve something for me. And so he wants them to actually bring back this rare plant that grows in the mine that has magical powers. It's meant to slow aging, and it also has considerable healing properties. But the idea is this plant is actually the fungus that grew there that sent all the miners mad, because it infested their brains. So the plant has remained, but his master, a wise and caring sorcerer called Jezebel Candlewick has found evidence of the plant being in the mine. Okay, so what Jezebel Candlewick actually wants is that she actually wants the fungus to be nasty about it. That's what she wants to do with it. She actually wants the fungus to create poisons and spread evilness. The person is quite... I need a name for him. Hi Claire, how are you doing? I hope you're looking good and feeling fine. Welcome in. That'd be awesome. An adventure to Inwils to gain some mythic lore. Yes, exactly. What I was thinking about this, we might go there eventually, but this is starting somewhere else. But I was thinking about Inwils Isle, and this Sage of Inwils is almost like a test, a challenge, and you have to go through. If you've never played D&D, you won't. But you won't know this. But there was a wonderful adventure, two wonderful adventures, one called White Plume Mountain, and the other one called Tomb of Horrors, and both of them had a series of traps that you had to get through. And I saw one played White Plume Mountain was actually played online, and it brought back so many memories. It was fantastic. And in White Plume Mountain, there is Black Razor the sword that actually sucks people's souls out, which is interesting. But I almost like wanted it to be the Sage Inwils has an academy where he promotes the minds of the young, you know, and educates them. So going into my idea of university and teaching and things like that, but there's a test to enter the academy, linking it to things like Hogwarts and things like that. And of course, it has to do with magic. And I was really excited about the Arcanist because, and Hermaeus Mora from Elder Scrolls Online, because I almost like thought there could be like, the Sage could actually become a class that has various spells, but it's always seen as an NPC class rather than a player character class. And so Inwils' sages are across the land gathering information all the time. So as well as gathering knowledge, they're also gathering information almost like a spy network across the land, you know, and they're feeding all this information back to the wondrous Inwils the sage, who knows everything and actually deals politically with a huge amount of people left, right and centre, you know, and sort of like interacting with them. That's basically my idea, but I'd probably take a while to get it. What did I call this guy? Rodeer. So I was going to call him Forked Tongue Snake or something, but he's not going to give away his real name, you know. And so he's actually going to say, oh, my name. It's a bit like saying, what is your name? My name is Darkness. Sort of like really sort of like gives over the impression of that NPC. But if you say, what is your name? And the man says, my name is Cuddly Kittens. You sort of like think, oh, what a sweet name. And that's what I want the effect to be. Not sort of like, oh dear, this is a really nasty person. I want it to be a really positive experience. The person Jezebel will of course say that they are going to use the plant for world peace. So the interesting thing about this outline, this overview that I've done, I think I'm going to, I still like this idea of dig too deep as the name of it. I still do like that. So what I've done here is that I've planned out the overview. And what I was saying earlier is that this is actually enough. This is actually enough for me to run the whole adventure now. Okay, so if somebody actually said tomorrow, oh, let's play this, then I could actually play it. There's enough information there. Of course, I don't have the stat blocks for the monsters or anything like that, but I can create that as I go along. But it's really important as a GM that you create the overview of the whole adventure first, you know, and the adventure will finish when the party comes back and they've accepted the challenge and they find the plant, and will they hand it over to Rodeer, you know, for his mistress Jezebel Candlewick. And this is when this is quite a simple storyline, but it has a huge amount of potential in it, you know, and even here, I know that on the first level, we're just going to have, you know, rats and bats and animals. But because the goblins live underneath, there might be things like bones or detritus or rubbish piled up. Old crate elevator leading to the next level. Broken, but there are rope ladders. The tunnel just slopes down into the third level along this tunnel. The goblins will not go, and there is evidence of some sort of wooden barricade here. Water also exists on this level. Home of the troll is in the same cavern as the fungus and the platinum seam. Okay, that's cool. I like that. Hi there, her zombie. How are you doing? I hope you're looking good and feeling super duper fine today. Welcome in. Right, so this is virtually set up now. This is all ready. I don't think there's anything else that I need to think about. I've almost like got the bare bones of the whole adventure ready. We got the people who have tried before. We got this shady person called Rodia. I just think it'd be funny if somebody is bound to ask, and what is your name? My name is Ro. Just Ro? No, Rodia. Row the boat he should be called, shouldn't he? Row the boat. Row the ferryman. I like deer though. And Jezebel Candlewick, I love. I always have this problem. I've got to make up all the names pre-adventure because I can't do it on the spur of the moment. I just can't do it. Everything needs to be done. So what we need to do next, so this is all saved, which is brilliant. All done and dusted. So what I need to do now is go back to the articles. So there's nothing in here. These are, I created a new world, so these are just articles that come with it. So what we need to do now is create the plot, the stages of the plot. So what I do now is that I have a plot line like this, and I call this one Challenge in the Tavern. That's the first sort of like part, and the parent of this of course will be Dig Too Deep overview, and this will have a positioning, okay, of 900. So what I do, I start off with 1,000, and then I take the number 1 off, 100 off. So this will be 900. So 2, the second part will be 800. And because of this position of the weighting, it will actually order every bit of the actual dungeon, the actual adventure. So if I go back to my articles now, you can see that this is the main article here, and this is the next one down. So when I'm DMing, I just open this in another link. So this is what I see. And then down at the bottom, it will have all the different parts. So this is everything that I've written so far with a nice background. I'll put on a like a header onto it just to make it look nice. So this would be all the information. If I need additional information, I'll fill up this part here. So you can add things here. So if I go into this one, if I just edit it for you, if we go into the sections, if I just put top section and then there, and if we save that, and then if I go back into here and refresh it, can you see it appears there? So I can have quick notes. So what I'll probably do in this top section is copy all the names of the people in the adventure, or the important characters. So when I come back to this, they're all at the front top, and I don't need to keep scrolling down. But when I'm DMing, so I don't DM looking at this view. I'm actually looking at this view, and then I will press challenge in the tavern, and that will take me to the next one, and then I can go back to the overview, etc., etc., throughout it. So I'm really sort of like, this is where I'm actually DMing from. The other thing that you do have with here is that you have a notebook. So this is the notebook across all my campaigns. Okay, so you can see here, this one, I didn't make any notes in the end, but this was all the notes for the Light of Xeraxis, which was the Spelljammer. So tackling insanity here, doesn't have one. I probably have, here's adventures ideas for M-Space, class ability. So a lot of these seem to have nothing on at the moment, but I keep one of these open as I'm actually doing the adventure, so I can jot things down on them all the time. And that's what I use for that. So everything is sort of like in World Anvil. Now, just to let you know, I pay a considerable amount a year for this, you know, but I just feel it's been the best thing to actually get all my character ideas, all my images, all my adventures all in one place. And of course, if I'm in classic fantasy now, but if I move to Metro City, so this is the this is destined, you know, I can come here and look at the Network 7 updates, and then I can instantly see the Network 7 update for that adventure or things like that. So everything is sort of like kept in here. This is possible new powers for heroes. I was out thinking about new powers, and so I just jot everything down here. So if I ever lose this, the world will end, I can safely say. But as I say, we're on classic fantasy, and it does look, I mean, this is sort of like what Mithras looks like. And you can see it looks really nice. So these are all, so this article, Beast Handlers, was something I made up. I just love that picture. But I don't know if you can, let me just move myself to the other side. So here, so somebody wanted to join the campaign and be a beast handler. So I created this article all for them. So you can see here, these are famous beast handlers. So the snake charmer Cedar Slitherer, a non-binary human who apparently has the power to hypnotize snakes. In contrast, Cedar is known to hurl their snakes into the faces of their enemies. It is not known whether the snakes are actually trained to attack their foes or whether they are just mad. There are rumours that Cedar can actually use snakes to as infiltration experts to gain information and assassinate. And then John Stallion is a horse whisperer. And then Jasmine Claw is a dragon slayer. According to legend, she has killed more than 100 and actually killed the last dragon which roamed Odes, a fire dragon which lived to the north in the volcanic region. So there's no dragons at the moment in Mithras. Since this heroic deed, she has mysteriously disappeared. Some say she died in the final battle, while others say she faded into the countryside, lacking any challenge to fulfill. Maybe if dragons ever return, then so will Jasmine Claw. I love writing things like this. These are Realm Walkers, which is a group of people that actually something else in addition to that actually teach falconry and things like that. So they're all it's all there ready. So what I'll do now every throughout the week is that I'll write another plot line. So I've got challenge in the tavern, so that's the first one. And then let me just move me back over the opposite side so you can see me. So then the second one, and the nice thing about these is that they don't have to be very big or anything like that. This would be plot number 2, shady, I'll call it encounter with a shady person. Encounter with a shady person. Okay, so this, I go to navigation, make it the parent of the choice, which is dig too deep overview, and because this is 2, the position of this will be 800. Okay, so when I save this and go back to my articles now, took me ages to work this out and get into a habit. You can see I've got 2 now, and so if I go to this overview and just refresh it down here, now you'll see both of them, and I can go to this one and then come back and then go back to the other one. They used to have a backwards and forwards so you can order them, but I think there was an issue with them and they stopped doing it. They had to take it down, but it was really useful. So here, down here, it said 1 before, 1 after, you know, and so you could actually move between them, which was really good. And so what I'll do is that I'll go through like that. And then the other thing that I will do, of course, and I'm still waiting to see whether or not I'll get partnership. I can't remember my password, so I'm not going to attempt to log on. Of course, then I've got a classic fantasy roll 20, a virtual tabletop space, and then what we'll do is that I'll put all the maps and the character information and the monsters all in there, create all the icons, things like the maps. With the maps, I'll put dynamic lighting on it so only torches, but they will have dark vision. I know some of them will, which I hate. But we'll see what happens. I figure a lot of them will be half demi-humans. I know Mr. Pickles wants to play a gnome rogue. You know, I can think it's going to be a dwarven fighter, you know, or something like that, an elven mage. I think we might have a few stereotypes, as I like to say it. Right, my hour is up. So huge thanks to everybody. An hour and a half I've been blabbling on about. So thank you for bearing with me. I do hope that that's given you a bit of a background into it. Please remember that you can go along and support all our role-playing games on the Ko-fi site, which is here, and I popped it up in the chat for you as well. I am working on trying to get my bot to greet people in the chat as well, but like it does on Twitch, but I can't get it to work so far. So anyway, I hope that was useful. If you would like to see any of the previous session or this session in full, remember it'll be available shortly after this. So you can go back and have a look at it. I'll make a nice thumbnail for it. And don't forget that all the information about Mithras and the games that we play, the actual play, the rules videos, the Gibbering GM series can all be found on my YouTube channel, where you're at now. And don't forget to subscribe and press that notification button, that little bell, because then you'll know when I'm going live with things like that. Thank you for popping along. Thank you for the likes. That's the most likes I've ever had. So thank you for that. And I'll see you all next time. And do check out the actual plays when we're actually playing Classic Fantasy. And if you've seen this background, it'll be interesting for you to watch and see what actually the players do, because they definitely will not have seen it. Until next time, stay safe, everyone, and healthy. But most importantly, stay positive. And remember, if it makes you happy, it doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks for coming along, and thank you for your support. See you all soon. See ya. Bye.